The scripture describes the conflict between Jacob and Esau that nearly destroyed their relationship forever. This story describes a family. Two brothers, Jacob and Esau, were twins, born to Isaac and Rebekah. Because the twins were so different, they were favored differently by their parents. Isaac favored Esau, a skillful hunter and the man of the fields. Rebekah favored the quiet and reflective Jacob. Isaac planned to give Esau, his firstborn son, his blessing, the gift that conferred favor, honor, and identity. Rebekah, favoring Jacob, quietly protested her husband's intended blessing. Together, she and Jacob found an opportune moment to trick Esau and receive the blessing meant for Isaac. The deception was deliberate and took advantage of Esau at a time when he was hungry and exhausted. It also took advantage of Isaac, who was blind. It ultimately resulted in Isaac offering to Jacob, rather than Esau, this blessing. May God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. There was but one blessing for Isaac to give, and having given it to Jacob, there was nothing left for Esau. The hurt that resulted boiled into rage, and the rage seeped into revenge. Esau vowed to kill Jacob. In fear, Jacob ran away. 20 years passed. They never spoke. They never even saw each other. Jacob, now married with many children, had a powerful dream one night. He awoke with the overwhelming feeling that it was time to mend his relationship with Esau. Jacob sent a messenger to Esau, informing him of his intent, but Esau, in return, didn't send a messenger with a reply. Instead, he came to deliver the message himself, and he brought 450 men with him. Jacob, terrified to think that Esau was finally going to get his revenge, began to pray. He knew that he and his men were no match for Esau's troops. He asked for God's protection and selected a gift, a peace offering, to appease Esau. They agreed to meet the next morning. The night before the scheduled meeting, Jacob was all alone. An unknown man came to Jacob and wrestled with him until daybreak, causing his hip socket to come out of joint. The man prepared to leave, saying, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." But Jacob refused, saying, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So the man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he replied. That man said, "You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans, and have prevailed." Jacob realized that he had seen God face to face, and yet his life was preserved. The next morning, Esau approached with his 450 men, and Jacob, limping, feared that he might be killed. Amazingly, Esau ran to meet him, hugged him, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. And together, the two brothers wept. Tears of revenge were transformed to tears of reconciliation. The hearts of the two men were changed. Jacob, once the deceiver, was now the reconciler. Esau, once the grudge holder, was now the forgiver. Only God can change hearts in this way.
Good morning. Last weekend, we Deacons enjoyed 24 hours in God's camp, so to speak. I need to clarify that a bit. We were in God's camp, except for the 8 hours scheduled for sleep. Those we spent in overheated quarters, which felt more like the 7th level of Dante's Inferno. It was hot. We were on this retreat to learn what it is to be the spiritual leaders of this church. That's the definition of deacons. And to gain insight into the true meaning of reconciliation and the process one has to go through. The setting was the Wisdom House in Litchfield, Connecticut, an appropriate place for learning. Through scripture, study, prayer, music, and meditation, Pastor Pat skillfully created an atmosphere where we deacons could feel emotionally comfortable and where we could respond to each other with honesty and respect. We were compelled by Pat's leadership, and I do believe by the grace of God, to be in peace and harmony with each other. I never heard a snarky response nor saw an eye roll at any comments as we expressed our opinions and discussed our differing viewpoints. And I do believe, at least I felt this way this morning, as each one of us deacons passed the peace to one another, it had a deeper meaning. The retreat was a little time in heaven, and I feel blessed to have had such an experience. My hope is that through our reconciliation plan, you all will enjoy such an experience also. I had many aha moments during this retreat as we studied the story of Jacob and Esau. I thought about God's coming to Jacob in a dream. I said to myself, gee, Carol, God has never come to you in a dream. I rarely remember my dreams if I have them at all. But I am very aware that God comes to me through my emotionally overcharged Italian soul. I know when I have experienced a broken relationship, I feel sorrow, anger, fright, or many other painful emotions, just at the thought of my new foe. I want to flee. I want to fight. Or if I listen closely, I want to fix it. Who wants to experience those painful emotions for any length of time? Certainly not for 20 years, as Jacob did. We learned that fixing any broken relationship needs to be intentional, done with God's help through prayer, and done with humility and a willingness to be vulnerable. Intentionality, prayer, humility, and vulnerability were concepts that we spent time discussing. The old adage that time will heal all wounds has its limitations. For as one of our deacons emailed, if a bone is not set properly, the healing will not be successful. We do have to go through a process to heal any broken relationship. I sincerely want the broken relationships in our church to heal properly. During the 2.5 years that I've served as a deacon, I have spent many, many nights in tears because I have witnessed too many church brothers and sisters who were once best friends become bitter foes. How very, very sad. Time alone may allow church brothers and sisters to tolerate one another, but in my opinion, not until each one of us can pass the peace to one another with an honest and heartfelt gesture will we have the energy and will to do God's work in this world together as a church family. I've learned that conflict does exhaust one, but harmony energizes. I pray that we will all become resolute to reconcile. It's my new mantra, resolute to reconcile. That restoring broken relationships becomes our goal. That each one of us will work hard to try to understand the road that led to conflict. Obviously, we have each walked a different path in the maze of our church in the last few years. I know the path I walked, which led to the actions I took and the words I spoke. I did not experience your path. Had we walked the same path, we would presently be enjoying harmony and not conflict. Our past experiences, and even before the last 4 years, have led us to see that Rorschach picture ink blot differently. Is she a beautiful young woman or an ugly old lady? What is the truth? My experiences form my perspective, my truth, it's mine. Your different experiences have formed your truth. To reconcile, we need to humbly admit to ourselves that my truth is no more valid than your truth. My right is not either superior or inferior to yours. We just need to work hard to understand each other's truth. That task requires a willingness to be vulnerable. I can pledge for myself to work hard to get to the point where I can invite those of you whom I have hurt through my words and actions to speak to me and tell me your story. I truly never meant to hurt you, but my actions and my words certainly did. I want so much to be at that point where I can hear your story and how I have hurt you, where I can promise not to attempt to impose my reality on you by countering with my story. I want to be able to pledge never to interrupt with but. I hope to get to that place where I want to understand you and not just be right myself. I am not at that place yet. I need more time in prayer. But oh, how I want to get there. At our diaconate retreat, I got a glimpse at the joy of true reconciliation. It is a glorious thing. May it happen for all of us in all our broken relationships. Thank you.
So, what circumstances have brought you to this day? Probably the most striking reflection from the deacon retreat was the radically different circumstances that each deacon brings to this day. And these circumstances have guided their experience, their perceptions, their stress, and their loss. I came from the edge to this day. All congregations have a core, those who are decision makers. They have influencers, those who support the decision makers and serve on boards and commissions. And then there are the people on the edge who are just happy to be here. The petition and subsequent departure of Chris Nichols came as a shock to me, which I did not understand then and still do not understand now. As an edge guy, I was perfectly happy with the way things are going. But eventually I felt betrayed, confused, and finally angry as events unfolded. In the end, over half the connections I truly valued in the congregation no longer would go to church here. My reconciliation will not be like Jacob and Esau's. My upset's directed more towards a circumstance, and it's not personal. I smile. I think that prior to this whole controversy coming out into the open, I was asked to be a deacon, and I declined, thinking that after decades of church politics, I needed a break. And it's only now that I'm really understanding how big a break it was in that respect. But last April, after leading a WOW service, I was asked again, and I accepted. The preparation of the WOW service had really stirred memories of a time when I had chosen to make connections with people who were homeless, I was uncomfortable with, perhaps even afraid. And those connections transformed my life. And the opportunity, the exact same opportunity is before me right now. And for me, to turn away from that is to turn away from Christ. So that's how I was led to this day, this moment. There is good news. I perceive the good news from the Deacons Retreat is that we all arrived as strangers, and we left as a functional diaconate. I felt understood during the 24 hours, and I understand so much more. The benefits of a mediation process are huge. And the journey of Jacob with intention, prayer, the vulnerability, and the ability to risk is really the roadmap for the way forward. The key to the Deacon Retreat, at least for me, was the fact that we created a safe place that allowed us to manage the risk. And this is the value of a mediation process. So I know myself, and I think I can speak for the deacons, we're glad to answer any questions and share more details in the process as we continue the dialogue.
Sometimes the best thing that you can do as a pastor is know when not to say anything. Thank you for your words and for your witness.